It seems like we have just found what could be the bodies of the giants that existed in the biblical times. In the Old Testament of the Bible, it actually says the giants did actually exist in this world before God decided to flood the entire earth. And now it seems like we might have actually found these giants. Now, I know it sounds crazy, but you guys need to stick around with me because there is a solid proof that brings into evidence that all of these biblical scriptures are indeed true. Now, I don't know if you guys know about how some of these massive mountains that actually resembles like the body of a giant. Take a look at this video right here. It's going to give you a lot more explanation as to what I'm speaking about.
Some people in Northern Europe were surprised when they found a very strange rock. I don't know what kind of stone it is, but its color is very similar to flesh and blood. Legend has it that it is the flesh of petrified giants. Because it was not suitable to exist in the New Age, God destroyed them, and they turned to stone. These rocks look.
And by the way, if you take a look at these rocks, these are like the chunk of rocks that are cut down from these mountains, which actually looks like a massive giant. And tell me, how does this not look like a chunk of meat itself? Because to be honest, this looks like a mixture of muscle and fat. And this literally looks like a lamb steak, to be honest.
Nothing more than chunks of meat.
Wow, look at that stuff. This literally looks like a rotten meat, man.
Not only that, people also discovered rocks with strange shapes, such as human faces and bodies. The mountains look like human muscles. Do you believe there are giants turned to stone in the world?
So this is what I was talking about in my previous video, where there's a mountain that literally looks like a snake's head, and it also has scales on it. Look at this stuff. This looks like a woman because after thousands of years, maybe the bodies just turned into mountains due to nature taking its course. And then a perfect body of a female, and we got like the legs right here, looks exactly like a petrified giant.
About this video, how people are claiming that these Himalayan mountains used to be some kind of giants, and that this pink salt looks a lot like flesh and blood.
Exactly. So these are present in the Himalayan mountains, and there are many different mountains in Himalayas that actually looks like a giant that's fallen. So it literally has the shape of an actual giant itself. And they started breaking down these mountains in order to dig and see what they find out inside. And they discovered that there are Himalayan salt that's present inside these mountains. And this is basically what the Himalayan salt looks like. So they just go in there, they start mining, getting a chunk of the salt, and then they convert that into salt that's being sold out there in retail. But this is apparently what it looks like. It looks exactly like a human meat for some reason.
From a being.
On petrified giants, whatever happened to them most probably happened fast and simultaneously. Now, do I believe that they are 100% petrified? And the answer is yes and no. If giants are real, like the Bible, Dead Sea Scrolls, and other literature
that looks like a
defines,
face.
they were not born of the same flesh like me and you, so I think they were only stopped but not destroyed. And these pink salt mines and these flesh-looking stones are part of their bodies harvested from the earth. And for us to deny the similarities that this was once...
That literally looks like a meat, man. This is basically how I get my chickens. That looks so much like a meat.
some living tissue. When pictures and video show
Wow.
layer...
Wow. Oh my God. This is exactly how a proper pork chop looks like. Like, look at this stuff, man. This is like the muscle, and then there's like perfect fat area that just adds in. And just take a look at what an actual meat would look like. And this is what they found out in the Himalayan salt that we are... And this is what they found out once they cut down these mountains. They actually look exactly like the meat itself.
by layer the truth.
That is insane. We also got another video right here.
I'm pretty sure these salt mines are dead giants. Y'all cannot tell me these salt mines are not dead giants. Bruh, this looks like
Look
chunks
at that,
of meat.
man.
Are y'all kidding?
Wow, this is like the perfect example right here. This right here is like the upper skin, and then we've got like the fat, and then we've got like the full meat, like the muscle part in here. And no wonder it tastes salty, man, because this is what Himalayan salt is all about. We're probably consuming the giants in the name of salt.
Me right now. This looks like bacon or pork chops. This
Exactly.
is salt from the mine. This looks like blood. Look at it. Look. This looks like the inside of a body.
Now, I went on to Google and I tried to find out what the actual Himalayan salts look like once they extract it. And would you believe it if I said that this was not a chunk of pork meat? This is actual Himalayan salt. And this literally is what it looks like. And this right here is another image of what the Himalayan salt looks like. There are like each layers of like these flesh that are being formed. And obviously these giants were not born as us humans, right? So that's probably why their bodies were not like completely decayed. And that is because they were born when humans and angels mated, when the fallen angels mated. So that's basically how these things were created, and probably why their bodies were never decayed, but then they were dead. This right here is another image. This literally looks like a juicy pork steak, man. And this right here is how the Himalayan salts are like harvested, and apparently they just keep mining inside these mountains, and it looks like an actual body of a giant, and basically trying to extract these salts. And tell me how this does not look like inside of a being that has been alive, like an actual body itself. Now, there is also a mountain which actually has a pathway that looks like a massive giant was just fallen, in which the entire city was built on.
If you needed further proof,
look at this stuff,
that we live on the remains of a much larger past.
Wow, this is what the Himalayan salt mountains look like.
It's nothing more than hardened biology. Let's take a look at where a trendy and popular ingredient you might have in your cabinet came from. Himalayan salt. You tell me what these caves look like. Let's take a look at some of that salt.
The best part about these Himalayan salt are like they kind of just have a glow to it. Look at that stuff. They kind of glow in the dark. I don't know why.
Taken out of these mines and collected into a pile.
Wow. Look at these things, man. They look like a chunk of meat being sold out.
Now, do those not look like slabs of meat or what? Here's a closer picture of one. How about now? If pork ribs aren't your cut of choice, don't worry. There's many.
No freaking way. Is this like the Himalayan salt? Wow.
The other cuts to choose from here. In the right conditions, after a great flood-like event, buried and covered in sediment, these petrified beings became the new mountains and hillsides of this realm. If you aren't convinced, let's do a few more side-by-sides. You got rock and meat. One of my favorites, you got bacon.
That is bacon.
And you got bacon rock. History is nothing more than a set of lies agreed upon. And the same goes for most all of academia. The truth.
This is the Himalayan salt that they just cut down into blocks. That looks like a chunk of meat that's being cut
is
down.
In the hillsides and in the mountains, hidden in plain sight. Question everything, friends. Until next time.
That is true, man. I think we should actually start questioning each and everything that happens around the world. And it seems like someone is just trying to keep us in the silence. They don't want us to know the truth. We have just found what is known to be the biblical trees that existed before the Great Flood. And these are the trees that God intended to cut it down so that the giants don't use the tree in order to escape the great Noah's flood. Now take a look at this right here.
This is a giant tree cut down by the angels. God made multiple giant trees like this.
Wow.
But he had to cut them down because he was going to flood the earth, and the angels and the giants were going to try to hide on these trees. So therefore he had to cut them down with angels. And that's what he did.
Now, before we dive into like the actual story of this tree and how this was cut into half, let's take a look at this footage right here.
This is a giant tree that angels cut down in the name of the Lord, so that way the Nephilim could not hide when Noah's, the floods came, and they were going to try to hide up on top of these trees and get away from the flood. And there's multiple other trees just like this all around the world, but they don't want to admit that because Satan rules this world, and it brings you back to Christ. You read the Bible, the book of Enoch, it all talks about this stuff, but they don't want you to know this.
A huge shout out to Ryan Murphy on Instagram for making this video. And apparently there are many trees that was actually cut down by the angels that God sent sent down to earth before like the great flood, the Noah's flood, because it seems like the giants, the Nephilims who lived on earth, were capable enough to climb this massive tree and probably survive the great flood. Now what's funny is that obviously our government, being the government, they named this place as the Devil's Tower for some reason. And the government obviously says that this is just a mountain. What's interesting is that there are plenty of different sites that looks exactly the same way, and it actually looks like a chunk of tree that's been cut down. And if you actually take a look at the size of this thing, it was at least supposed to be about 2 miles all the way up in the sky, and that's how huge these trees were before it was cut down. And this right here is another image so that you guys can take a look at what it actually looked like and tell me that this doesn't look like an actual tree that is intentionally being sawed down. Now this is basically what the site looks like, and if you compare this with like an actual chunk of wood, this is how the roots of an actual tree looks like. And the best example that I can give is that if you take a look at this tree that's been cut down, this looks exactly as what this mountain looks like, and it is massive in size, and it was also mentioned in the scriptures of Enoch. Now unfortunately the scriptures of Enoch were not included in the Bible because back in those times the Jews, the Christians, they were not very pleased to hear some of the things that was mentioned in the book of Enoch, and they did not want to include those things in the Bible itself. Some of the things that were said in the book of Enoch is actually crazy because it talks about the angels, it talks about the great Noah's flood and what happened during those floods and before the flood. Now guys, take a look at this image right here. Tell me, how in the world does it even look like it's just a mountain? It's a very clear representation of what an actual tree would have looked like. And this right here is like the stiffness of the roots of the tree that just went all the way up, but then it was cut down, it was sawn down perfectly as though it was done very intentionally by someone. Now in the book of Enoch, it actually says that the angels were sent by God in order to cut down the giant trees before the great Noah's flood happened. And this right here is another image of what the tree actually looks like. If it was fully grown all the way up above, it is said to be about 2 miles that's going to be growing all the way up in the air. So that's a massive tree, to be honest. And if this tree was not cut down, the giants might have probably used the tree in order to climb it up and survive the great flood. And according to the scriptures, that's why God decided to cut it down. Now there is also another mountain, which the government claims that it is just a mountain, it's not a tree. Now of course, everything that's run in this world is run by Satan, so he obviously wouldn't want us to know about the truth of this world and the scriptures that's already been said. So the government claims that this is just an average mountain. Now if you take a close look at this, and you actually even have those tree marks right here, like all of these circular wooden marks that keeps appearing, and obviously over thousands of years, if a wood just stays in a single place, the environment is obviously going to be covering up the wood, and it's going to change its properties, and it's going to look more like a forest. Now for example, this is basically what a cut down tree looks like. If you go close up to a tree stump, this is basically what it looks like. It looks like a bunch of mountains, and it looks like there is a massive jungle that's overgrown on this mountain. But this is just a stump of a tree that's been cut down for hundreds of years. Now imagine a tree that was cut down before the pre-flood era, which is thousands of years from now, and tell me, how can this not be the tree that is mentioned in the scriptures? Now there are of course many different sites that actually looks like a massive tree was cut down. One of these examples that I actually came across on Twitter, if you cut down 2 trees that are like overgrown between each other, this is basically what it's going to look like. And that's exactly what these mountains look like as well, which, you know, people actually believe that these are just mountains. And we've got another tree that's been cut down all the way near the roots, and look at this mountain right here. It's been cut down, it's been sliced down in a perfect shape. The same goes on for this one as well. And down here we also have another mountain which also looks like it's been sliced down. And apparently if you go up on the close-up surface of these trees, that the structure has a very close resemblance of what an actual chunk of tree would look like. It has some sort of a honeycomb structure, if you take a close look at what it actually looks like, that are formed above the tree where it was like completely flattened, cut down. And this is one of the reasons as to why many people believe that these were not just some random mountains, and these were the trees that actually existed before the Noah's flood. Take a look at a couple of these images that we've got. There are plenty of different trees where now people are starting to question everything that the government is trying to hide from us. Doesn't this look like the roots of the tree that's like all the way underneath, and then there's like a massive tree that was supposed to be grown, but then it was perfectly chopped down for some reason? All of these looks like it was perfectly chopped down. There is no freaking way this is just a random mountain, and they named it as the Devil's Tower. And this is one of the best ones out there. There is no way anybody out there could say that this is just a random mountain. But obviously they don't want us to know the truth, which is why they haven't been revealing the actual reality of what's going on in the world. They haven't really accepted or mentioned this out there in the public that these are eventually the trees. Like, look at these roots, man. It literally looks like an actual tree. But then the truth is all over the world, but then they just don't show it in the actual social media, or they don't really get to show this on the main news channels. Somebody is trying to hide the truth from us people, and I think we know who that somebody is. And it's very important that we start questioning each and everything that they've been hiding from us. Like Antarctica, for example, and also a part of Great Canyon, which we are not allowed to go ahead and explore for whatever reason that is. It's not because it's dangerous. There are many different parts of the world that's dangerous, but why does the government not allow us to go ahead and explore these locations? What are they hiding in there that they are so afraid that we might eventually find out, due to which they're not allowing any of us humans to even enter that restricted areas? Because that obviously comes down to freedom. If they want to go down and explore Antarctica, I think we should actually have the freedom in order to do so. But then for some reason, they will literally shoot you down if you enter the borders of Antarctica using a boat or a plane. You're just literally not allowed to go in there. So what kind of things are these people hiding? Basically, it leaves us to such a conclusion that we should actually start questioning many things, that they have been falsely lying to us for all these years. Because just imagine what would happen if people will eventually find out, if the entire world finds out and they realize that the scriptures in the Bible was actually the truth, and whatever we know so far is all just bunch of garbage and lies that was being fed to us from all these years. Imagine if everybody in this world finds that out, then this would lead to a massive outbreak where nobody is going to be trusting the government, nobody is going to live anymore in a slave mindset, and the world would basically change and start following God and the scriptures, and they would actually start worshiping God instead of living according to the rules that these people have set so far, because they are probably trying to keep us silent and try to just make us live in a slave mindset. And that's basically what's going on for all these thousands of years. And that is also why they want to just keep us in control, and they don't want us to know the actual truth. And I strongly believe that we should actually start questioning each and everything that we see, and maybe whatever we see in the news, maybe whatever the scientists are saying, those are not the real truth. The scriptures are actually the real truth, and they're just trying to hide it by just labeling each and everything that's in the nature as science and giving some sort of a bullshit explanation to each and everything that we see that happens in a very natural way. They always have some sort of an explanation to each and everything so that we can basically forget what the scriptures are reminding us of. So honestly, man, I hope you guys start questioning these things, and I really hope that this video kind of just enlightened you with some of the information that you might have never known before. And if it did, then please make sure to go ahead, drop a big fat like on this video. It really means a lot to the content. It helps the content get pushed to more people. If you would actually go ahead, drop a like and leave a comment, the algorithm picks those things up as very good positive interaction. So YouTube shows this video to more people, so that more people can actually get to know truth rather than living in lies and, deceptions that we've been living for all these years. So please make sure to go ahead, share this video to as many people as you possibly can. And honestly, let me know in the comments down below, what do you guys think about everything that we've discussed in today's podcast? Now, with that being said, if you guys want to stay tuned for more content like these, make sure to go ahead and subscribe. It's absolutely free of cost on YouTube. That's the best part about YouTube. And make sure that you guys are setting your notification settings to all, so that way you don't miss out on the content that I upload every single day. Now, with that being said, hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Till then, take it easy, fams, and goodbye.